Oh shit, my neighbor is Albanian. uh, uh, fuck, Mongolians are invisible, bro.
Yeah, goddamn
Nobody
Mongolian.
saw Genghis Khan coming.
So yeah,
Uh,
if you say that invisible is a state of something not being seen, then it depends on what is perceiving it. Because if he could see invisible beings, those beings weren't invisible because he could see them.
yeah, that's a semantic issue. I meant things that are extra dimensional. For the third dimension, like
Okay, and then
four-dimensional
we go
beings.
to a specific word that I use, which is ethereal.
Yes, yes, yeah, that's a good word. So if a person can really speak to ethereal beings, I will believe him when he says, "Yo, every ethereal being
I would
wants
cite
to be
the
human."
South Park episode with Mormons. There's two plagues that tell us what to do, but only I can read them. I swear. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't believe the guy either. I don't believe him either. I
Uh,
just threw it out as an anecdote.
I would still use my dimming approach. In God I trust, all other must bring data. He doesn't bring me data, he brings me opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. No. I agree with you.
Like,
It's just a
a
stupid.
being that is invisible could still be perceived by other means. And therefore, he
Okay.
could prove to me that this being is there.
Okay.
By
Yeah.
other way, like something that
I
is
mean,
literally invisible but has a material form, you can like drop paint on it and be like, here it is. Oh, yes, there was an invisible being here.
no, we're talking about immaterial form,
Yes, of
ethereal
course,
form.
but there are still influences he must have on this world in order to exist as an integral being.
Well,
Otherwise,
maybe
he's
you
just a
have to cross
concept and he
into.
doesn't exist.
Right, but if this concept can speak to you, does it not exist?
Yes, but there again, he's not talking to ethereal beings, he's talking to concepts.
Maybe that's the same thing. Well, here's the thing, okay? If somebody can say, "Hey, I'm talking to this thing," you cannot see it, but I'm talking to it because I can see it, and it tells me that in a minute the doorbell is gonna ring, and then in a minute the doorbell rings, and then he says, "Oh, it also said that it's going to be a pizza guy who accidentally delivered the pizza to the wrong place," and then it's, "Oh, hey, pizza," and I'm
Yeah,
like, "What the
exactly.
fuck?"
At that point, he had demonstrable proof that there is something just beyond what he says.
Yeah. I agree. Look, listen, Alex. From the beginning, I agreed with you. This is a pretty silly anecdote. But I'm just saying, like I heard that too. I heard many things. Like there was always a time when I thought that humans are not just animals. Um,
Oh, I
I'm not
believe
saying they have
that
no
most
relation.
humans go beyond transcend or animalistic part, but some other animals, non-human, can also do it.
Maybe. I'm not gonna place an absolute answer. I
Yeah,
just think that in general, humans are not animals. We have traits in common, absolutely. But in general, not in every single case, maybe, because that may be a bit too bold a statement. But in general, humans are not animals. We just have there's a qualitative difference. We have some traits in common, but we are qualitatively, not
we are animal,
quantitatively.
but we are also something else. I'll go back to the purple. Purple is blue, but blue is not purple. Like, saying that purple is blue
Mm.
is a lie, but not as much as a lie as saying it's yellow.
And I don't like this comparison, not because it's wrong, but because it doesn't seem to fit this analogy. Because we're talking about humans having access to another dimension.
Yes, we've transcended our animalistic part. Like,
But the
purple has
color
moved beyond
example,
being blue. It is
no,
now,
because it's still in this.
it
It's in the
is
same
the
dimension.
material of blue, and it is the spiritual of red, and therefore it is something new, which is not simply
Nah,
blue. But we
I
still
disagree with.
are animals. We're not mineral, we're not vegetal. We're organics being that transcend their material
Oh, okay.
frame.
So if we define animal as an organic being that is not vegetal, then I'm gonna say yeah, we are animals.
Yeah.
But when I say animals, I mean literally, that a normie would say
Are
when
we
he
non
says animal.
sentient beings? No. But there again,
Okay.
animals aren't non sentient beings either. So this is
Look,
why I think your wordage of animal is awfully wrong
maybe,
here.
maybe. I just mean we're not like dogs, and I
No,
don't just mean because we're smarter. We are fundamentally different.
indeed.
Not to say that we have not similar background or instincts or beholden to the same laws of nature. I'm not saying that.
Totally.
I'm not
On
saying that,
that part, we are exactly like dogs.
but we also are nothing like dogs
We
in
are
another way.
transcendent, which is why I use the
Exactly.
color. Like, animals are still blue. They don't have that red part of transcendence. We aren't
Okay,
blue
fair enough.
anymore, but we come from blue.
That's not true. Eiffel 65 are blue, man. That was so bad. I'm blue, dabba dee dabba die, dabba dee dabba die. Just kidding. Just a bad joke, bro.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
The toe are
You didn't
blue, and
laugh,
they're
man.
a bad joke as well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, fair. You've made some very good points. I think in the metaphysical debate, I was absolutely right.
No, and we
And I
didn't
think,
debate the metaphysical part, except
but in the animal
okay.
debate, you
You
were
say
absolutely
that
right.
animals cannot have this untangible asset, and I say they do. And you think you're right, and I think I'm right.
No, no, no. Look, I'm saying I think I'm right. You think you're right, and I cannot prove you, and I'm not claiming to be able
Oh,
to prove it. I
same
acknowledge
way
that.
on my part. I think that in the end, like, there are probably more chances that you are right than I am. Like, if we could perfectly measure consciousness, humans have more of it than any other animals, on average.
I don't think it can be.
Like,
But
no,
either way,
it cannot.
what I meant
But if
about
it could,
metaphysical,
you'd be probably more right. Like, if we could have the charts, most probably that humans are more conscious by
yeah,
far, on average, than most animals are, on average. Just like saying
yeah,
men are
qualitative
stronger than
difference.
women, on
Yeah,
average.
yeah. I think that's a fair assessment of it. But when I said the metaphysical thing, I meant back when we talked about God, because I think and you didn't make many assertions, but you were an interesting conversation partner
Oh, the only
on that
assertion
one.
I make through God is that we can make no assertion.
Yeah, but we can. I think the assertions that I did make. In comparison
Oh,
to the
yeah.
animal thing, in compare the animal thing, I didn't have many good arguments. I will absolutely admit that you had
You
very good
like
arguments.
this domino things, like there has to be something that puts things in motion.
Transcends it. That
Yeah,
transcends the things.
that
Yeah.
is an interesting postulation, which I believe
Or the
so
fact
far
that,
I don't have any like logical way to disprove this.
or for example, the thing that if we take this cycle, the infinite cycle,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, it did
that it
something
has to be
start the
intelligent.
cycle. But I
Then it has.
really am on the bet that I don't think things need a reason to exist. I am perfectly
I'm not
fine.
talking about a reason.
Yeah, but I don't mean things don't need a consequences to be brought into the fold. I'm fine with like the world not existing and then sometime existing without gods. Meh, I'm fine with that.
But it's illogical. That's what I'm saying. It's not
It,
logical.
I think it's as logical as God being there.
Then assert it. Show me
This
the logic.
I
Not
I
just
am
I would be
not
fine with that.
asserting that it is as good as a proposition. I'm saying it is as demonstrable as a position.
Yeah, but we're not talking about demonstrability. We defined that as a term from the get-go, which was something I demanded because I do not like the cop out of, well, I do not have the logic to back this up, but since we cannot prove it, I don't like that. I think that has no place in a metaphysical conversation
You
because then you
might
might
not
as well not
like it,
have it.
but it is the basis of my persona. Like, if I don't know
But then,
something and I
okay,
cannot prove it out of any doubt, I will hold
yeah,
my judgment until I can.
and I think that's good and humble, but I don't think you can have a metaphysical conversation
Oh, I'm
if
ready to
you,
say, like, let's have this conversation, supposing this is
huh?
true.
No, using sound logic. That
Yeah,
is
like,
how,
let's use
right.
some logic and suppose that there is a null and there is a line and there is nothing beyond that. and we start from this paradigm. Or let's start with the paradigm that things need something to put them in motion.
But only if we can really assert that, right? Because if we can make a counter example where, or establish a logic, it's about logic, right? This is why I don't like the argument of demonstrability. If we're going to revert to demonstrability, why have a discussion about metaphysics?
Because we'll
'Cause nothing
know
is demonstrable.
less. We'll not know less about the things we don't know. It is why even we cannot demonstrate this conversation, I would not be willing not to have it.
Yeah, but if you're going to use the non-demonstrability as a point, you would invalidate the conversation
I don't
itself.
use it as a point in itself. I use it as a reference to say I am not swayed one way or the other until it is demonstrable, even though it is
But it's not-
demonstrable through logic only.
Okay, let me put it like this. The basis of a metaphysical debate is that both parties agree that demonstrability plays no part in this conversation. Because otherwise,
Or things that
just
should
new.
be demonstrable are just supposed to be in a state. It's the other way to have this conversation. We either
Explain.
suspend demonstrability, or we agree upon things that won't require demonstrability in order to progress the conversation. For example, let's talk about Star Wars. We both agree that Star Wars do not exist. It is demonstrable. But for the good of the conversation, we're going to accept the rules and laws of Star Wars.
Oh, okay, yeah, fair.
Yeah,
sure, but that's about fiction then.
Or metaphysics, which is in a way fiction, because it does not materially exist. It is less fiction than fiction. Like things that we know do not exist, unlike metaphysics, which are things we could not prove exist.
Okay, yeah.
Like Star Wars, we know it does not exist. Like,
but do we have to prove infinity to understand that it is a fact?
We can prove infinity demonstrably. Like, infinity
Impossible.
does exist. We can demonstrate it.
Exactly. Wait, how can we demonstrate it?
Something divided by something that tends to zero will tend to infinite. And something multiplied by itself that is not one enough will tend to infinite.
But that is just the same. This is just logic. That is not.
Exactly. But I'm saying some metaphysical things can be demonstrated through logic. But I don't believe that things need a physical manifestation to be demonstrable.
Okay, then explain to me how that doesn't apply to the theory that there must be. Okay. This is an important point. So give me a second.
Did I finish my map?
Okay, so then why does it not apply the same to the logic that
because
existence is eternal?
That logic is pretty solid. Like, I'd argue you're holding on to something, but you're not demonstrating out of any doubt that God exists and is infinite.
But the logic demonstrates it, just like the logic you use mathematically to prove infinity exists.
Yes, but I did not need to prove something that has bearing on the physical world, and I use it through the physical world, which is weird. Like 2 + 2 can be tested out in the real world. Like, even though 2 + 2 as a concept cannot be manifested in the real world, it is extrapolated from real world. And then it is demonstrable.
You can see it reflected.
Exactly.
Reflected in the real world.
And then that, I believe, is demonstrable out of doubt, because it is not like if someone comes in with a different opinion, the end result will never change.
Yeah,
Everyone
because
who,
we use
yes,
a language of logic, which is mathematics.
exactly, it is totally devoid of any personal projection on the matter.
But the same applies to metaphysical logic if it is distilled. It is just the difference is that the mathematical language is more clearly defined and has very clearly defined rules
Yeah,
that have been
the
tested,
mathematical
whereas
language is not a human being language. Mathematical language could exist even if human didn't exist. It depends that we're the only one who use it at the moment, but like another species could use the exact same mathematics we use without any cultural reference to us. Our language, not so much.
right, but our language also just conveys logic. It's inherently the same. It's just the rule set is different. Well, not even that. Not even that. Think about it. Computer programs and the way computers are programmed. Okay, Mm. It's just logic gates. Okay, yes or no, true or false.
Yeah,
And the same way, this is the underlying principle of mathematics and of any type of logic. If
yeah.
this, then this, and this, then that, bam. And then
But
it's the
those
metaphysical
do
logic.
not convey any qualitative meaning behind it, like true and
But you can
false.
extrapolate it just like you can do with mathematics. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
but
do your
like
job for you. The
there is
difference
not
is
good and
that
bad, half bad. There is not beautiful and ugly in mathematics. Those are
yeah,
concepts
but
that does not exist or translate to that languages.
metaphysics doesn't use those either.
Exactly. So when you're doing metaphysics with things that use them, you start to be biased.
Exactly, but I didn't do that. No, neither did you. None of us did that.
We'd used word and language that were shaped by living beings in order to come to this conclusion. We didn't use mathematical, like,
No, 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 no.
you cannot
You're
have a
taking this the wrong
formula.
way.
Okay.
What you're what you're doing wrong is you're saying you're using words, not numbers. But words are constructs like numbers. It depends on how you use them and what you're trying to convey.
I
If you're just trying
maintain
to convey
that
conditions. Mm-hmm.
words convey conditions and other things that mathematical does not in its inception.
Why? It's still just a truth test, a condition evaluation.
Yes, but those similar truth tests don't really exist in languages.
Yeah,
In
they do.
languages, we
They're just
convey
concepts.
meaning and concepts. We don't
Right.
convey absolute truths.
Mm, why?
Because a language that convey absolute truths would only be useful in things that require absolute truth, such as mathematics, which can be proven beyond a doubt. Unlike the existence of some metaphysical being, you can argue
Okay.
for that presence very well, and it might sway my mind a bit more towards does it exist or does it not. But there is no data upon whether this exists or not, and
Yeah,
there
but
is
we don't
data
have
upon infinity
data.
existing.
We don't have data on mathematics either. It just makes sense. It is just logical and it can be reflected
And
to
it is
physical objects.
demonstrable.
No, some is, some isn't. You cannot demonstrate infinity because you. I will tell you why you cannot. You can extrapolate and say here we have proof that this must be infinity, but we cannot demonstrate that it truly is infinity. We can extrapolate it and we can say yes, of course, I'm not stupid. I know
Enter
that
that in
this is an
Google,
infinity.
see what it would give you.
Enter what?
The thing oh, sorry, I sent it to the wrong person.
Look, I'm not at a screen right now. I'm in the
Okay, like
kitchen.
this
Let me.
mathematical formula will yield infinity whatever you look at.
Yes, but here's the thing. We know that it's infinity because we can derive the logical conclusion, but we cannot literally see the infinity and say, yes, I've seen it from beginning to end. This is infinite. That's literally impossible by definition. You see what I'm saying?
No.
You cannot hold an infinity in your hands. You cannot see an infinity. You can only
Indeed. Okay.
extrapolate it.
The infinity is a metaphysical being. It is a concept.
Thank you. And
Yes,
yet
okay.
we acknowledge it. Yet we
Because we can
acknowledge it.
demonstrate it without any shadow of a doubt.
The same way your transcendence. can be demonstrated without a shadow of a doubt by the very fact that you are aware of this very moment, and you're
Okay,
aware of this very moment.
I'd go as far as to say transcendence can be demonstrated without the shadow of a doubt. It still
Okay,
doesn't translate to God being proven without the shadow of doubt.
let me put it like this. Um, okay, I will do that to you. I will give you that. I will give you that. I will give you the logical steps to that. Just like you can give me the logical steps of one and one is two, whatever that means. Okay, or that divided by this. Okay, which are by the way relative. But I'm gonna move into the absolute realm here, and I'm gonna do your job for you. By the way, the main difference, and that was the argument you were trying to make, I think, is that with mathematics and with metaphysical logic, the main difference, in my opinion, is that mathematical assumptions are are absolute. One plus one. Whatever you say comes next, but we know one and we know plus and we know one. Okay? But we can make false assumptions that we think are correct when we talk in the metaphysical language because it's so much more complex that it's easier to miss a mistake. You know what I'm trying to say? That is
Or
the main difference.
simply not be aware of or lack of awareness on certain topic.
I think if you're talking about logic, just logic, not knowledge, just logic, right? Because I think this is where we have to start and end. This is all we have to go with. Because if we need more knowledge, then forget it. The conversation can never happen because there will always be missing knowledge. Okay, by definition, maybe by definition.
I like how
But
when I look for logic, the first thing I get is a rapper and not like the definition of the actual word.
right. So what I mean is, we only have logic to go with, okay? And the thing is, the way we formulate logic in mathematics is very universal, very straightforward, and is not based on hypothetical scenarios, okay? In the way that metaphysical logic is. So metaphysical logic will set up a scenario. So this, that, infinity, blah. And it's easier to make mistakes than in mathematics because it's a more abstract concept. Maybe. I'm not sure if I'm conveying this the right way. I'm just musing. But okay.
I maintain
Um,
that logic can yield discrete results where mathematics yield absolute results.
okay, let's try this then.
With true
Um,
logic, we can propose an idea being better than another one while both being good.
yes,
In
precisely.
mathematics, whenever you input a certain data, the certain outcome would come all of the
Uh huh.
time.
Yes, yes. Whereas with logic,
Mathematics
you
is
could
a
miss a point.
100% predicator.
And mathematics also have a testing method to built in called calculation that will
Yes,
show whether the logic was correct. Whereas with logic, it's not so easy with pure logic. I mean, with verbal logic, it's not so easy to test. It's easier to miss things, and you cannot
exactly.
calculate it.
And you cannot be
But the
aware of what you
basis,
weren't aware of.
bingo. But the basis is still the same,
Nope.
which is my point. Yes, the basis is still
Which is
logic.
exactly where I start diverging with you. They are not the same.
The basis is the same.
No. One
How
works
is it
only
not the
in
same?
concept and only in pure demonstrability. The other one works in interpretation and arguing and uh, agreeing.
So you don't think that that verbal logic can be demonstrably true? Only mathematical logic. Is that what you're saying?
Not exactly, but if a verbal logic can be demonstrably true, it will not always be.
What does that mean?
You can come to a situation where the same thing that was true becomes false because of a changing situation or simply because you're having it with a different being. Like
But
we and I
but
agree.
that's like changing a variable in a formula.
No,
Go on.
If I change a variable in a formula, the end result will not be the exact same. I agree. But whenever I change a formula, it has to obey by the exact same rule of logic, by the exact same demonstrability than any other mathematical demonstration had. And the same mathematical demonstration will always sway the same purple, always sway any people in the same direction.
Yeah, the same goes for language statements. But if you make a language statement in the wrong
No,
context,
you cannot convince someone who has too much food than having more food is good. Like there are some places where the same
why are we
logic
talking about
argument.
conviction now? Why are we talking about convincing somebody? We're talking about the inherent logical truth, not about.
Okay,
We're talking about.
I am. I think, therefore I am. And you can go to any person and say those words, and they will come to exact same conclusion.
Okay. Point being.
No, it is what you postulate, right? That there are some words that are so logic that you can bring them to anyone and they will have the exact same output.
No, this is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if you say, hey, look, you can make a logical statement, and you agreed with that, as far as I recall,
Yes,
that is true almost or exactly by mathematical standards without using the language of mathematics.
4
But you
is
say,
larger than 3.
right, but you say that mathematics are portable, whereas statements that might be true now or here are not true later or there. And
Exact.
there I say, you're drawing a bad analogy, a false analogy, because you're attributing, you're taking the statement out of context. And obviously, if you take something out of context, it loses its validity. It's like taking numbers out of the context or changing variables, because the context is a
That
variable.
is exactly the basis I'm saying that mathematics and logic are not on the same basis because one requires context and the other doesn't.
Of course, mathematics has its own context. It is a
But his
statement,
context is
right?
intemporal and is not subjective to any human being. And the output will always be the same no matter what culture or context you put the same equation.
Let me put it like this: the ball fell down because of gravity, right?
Yes.
Okay. So is that not a fact?
As long as you're on planet Earth or on an asteroid that produce gravity, it is a fact.
Okay. So if you create, so physics, right, is based on mathematics and observes the natural world
And
and
has
its rules.
perfect demonstrability and will produce the same output whatever the human condition or reference you put it in.
No, not true, because the force of gravity, if you hard code it and don't use a variable, the variable has to adapt to different gravitational fields. For example, on Mars or
Yes,
a moon. Exactly.
but
And that is
then it is
context
your
sensitive.
data that is wrong, not changing it to a different semantic or
Yes,
contour
but
or context.
the data is the context, just like the context of a statement. But because what is it that invalidates an otherwise correct statement? It is the context, right? I'm not saying that logic, verbal logic, is used in the way that mathematics are, but the basis of how we derive a conclusion is the exact same. It is reasoning. It is this, therefore that. 1 plus 1 equals 2. Because we have 1 and 1, therefore we have 2. This is the fundamental basis of mathematics. And if we did not possess, and it's the same, and look, the reason we can handle mathematics is the same reason we can handle logic. It's because we have the ability to reason. Both have the same concept underlying, but both are different expressions and have different rules. For example, mathematics have extremely strict rules, which makes them so portable because it's self-contained. Whereas logical statements that are using language, first of all, language itself is a context-sensitive thing. And language is used to communicate between people, whereas mathematics doesn't need to be communicated to be factual, right?
Exactly.
Mathematics are correct. They're what they are. So I'm
They
not saying
are
that they're the same thing.
100% factual, 100% demonstrable, and 100% intemporal.
Yes, because you can take them out of context, and they're still the same thing. But the basis of logic is still the same. It is
Logic is
still the
still
basis.
logic, I agree.
Like you infer something from something else, you draw a conclusion, and it's reasonable. It's only demonstrable because we can reason. If we couldn't reason, it wouldn't mean anything to us.
Okay.
And the same, right? Because like, okay, you have one, and then you take another one, or you have two to somebody who cannot reason. There's no difference. It's just a thing. There is no concept of two or three, or an infinity for that matter, right? At least not a verbal concept. So mathematics is just a very specific, developed method of applying logic in a beautiful way. And I'm not saying it's literally the same as language, because it clearly isn't. Mathematics have an advantage that language does not have. But language has other advantages, but both are based on logic. On the problem with verbal logic is that we have to always establish
Referential.
exactly, like a definition, for example, right? Uh, a context, a reference. Yeah, as you said, that's enough. We don't have to. You said it already as it is. It's perfect. But with mathematics, we don't, because as long as we have reasoning, 1 + 1 is 2, and that's never going to change.
We only need a referent when we want to apply the mathematics to the real world.
But the same goes for verbal expressions of logic, like
No,
language,
I feel
right?
it's the opposite. In
Okay.
semantics, or actually metaphysics, you have to agree on referent for things that are not in the material world.
Yes. Okay.
Because, like, we don't need to agree on the word that designed a cat because we can just point to it.
Okay, let me put it like this. Um, if I said I disagree with you on what infinity is, or I said I don't think there is such thing as infinity. Now, where's
Yes.
your math? How do you apply math there? How do you prove it with mathematics?
Multiply a
You see
number
that
by
you
itself that is not 1.
okay, and then what?
And then it gets bigger, and then you multiply it by itself.
Okay, go on.
And exactly, you can go on. That is the
Yeah,
point of
and then what?
infinity. There is not a
Yeah,
point.
but I'm saying no, but we don't know if it stops at some point.
We know that it won't,
How?
because there isn't a set end.
How do we know that?
We
I
indeed
know that there isn't a set
do
end.
not
I know
have.
that, but how?
Oh, do
How
we
do I know
actually
that? And how do
have the
you know that?
demonstration? I wouldn't be surprised if we already had the demonstration of this thing done.
Right, but how?
I don't know it.
Like,
I haven't looked into demonstrating infinity because for me, I can simply say 9 factorial, exponent 9 factorial, power 9 factorial, and Google says it does make infinity. So not only do I know it exists, I know how to mathematically get there.
right, but how can you explain that it exists?
Because it is the reverse of 0. If you divide 1 by 1, it will give 1. If you divide 1 by 0.1,
Do
it
you
will give 10.
understand that you're using mathematics as data, but your actual reasoning is language? This is what I'm trying to tell you right now. That you like we can say, but how do we know? But how do we know? But how do we know? It is inherently logical that you can go on forever and ever. And it's inherently logical, but it's easier to juggle with numbers as data than with concepts. But it is the same thing, except these concepts are different, right? Because here's the thing, okay? Proving infinity, you say it's mathematically easy as pie because it is what it is, right? But I'm saying you can only make that claim because you can logically infer that, not because of mathematics, but because you can never see a whole sequence in its infinity, because the sequence is infinite. But you can infer that it's infinite. And the same way you can infer it with metaphysical logic, because it's not the data that proves the infinity, it is the reasoning, the understanding. And the same applies to reasoning in metaphysics, except we cannot put these numbers, so to speak, into a calculator because we're not talking about numbers. But it's the same exact thing, because try to sell to me the idea of mathematical infinity, and you'll see that you will use language and logic. You'll say this because of that. It's a syllogism. It doesn't matter whether you're using mathematical data or any other sort of data. The only issue is that definitionally a number is a number, but what is an infinity, or what is existence? This is why I treat the word existence, this is why I'm so strict about defining things. When I say existence, I mean not this existence, not relative existence, but everything that is, because that way I can reduce it to a near mathematical level of saying one. Okay, I say one, therefore. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, one
One
or
times one,
zero.
or one. Exactly. This is how I think that metaphysical reasoning is nearly mathematical. But, and I think it's foolish to say, no, I need the exact numbers. Because I think that's absurd. That's absurd. As long as the reasoning is the exact same. And for that, you need to reduce everything down as much as possible to bring it close to the low level abstraction of 1, 0. You see what I mean?
Hmm.
But it's the same application. It's the same logic, because when you try to tell me about infinity, you're not just saying 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. You're not saying 1 to the power of blah blah blah. No, inferring you're inferring a condition or a state that you know from the logic, not from the math. The math is just data. But the logic is that which makes something out of the data. And when you string together many numbers to produce a bigger result, it is again what you infer from it that has the meaning. The numbers themselves are just abstract representations of something, which again is inspired by logic. And the same goes for metaphysics. Now, if we use concepts that are spoopy, that don't make much sense, that we cannot agree on absolutely, this way, when I discuss metaphysics, I only want absolutes. I only want absolutes. Because then you can treat it like math. And that's the only way I'm willing to discuss math. Because everything else is just, if you weren't using absolutes and reducing things down to basic elements, then I would say, hey, this is just hocus pocus. We don't know. But if we're using absolutes, then I don't accept that we don't know answer, right? Because, yeah, okay, sure, we don't know, but within the scope of our discussion, we do know. Now, maybe there's some logic that we're not seeing, right? But with the logic itself can be sound or can be unsound. And this is as good as it gets, like to say, I cannot be convinced because I cannot know. In a metaphysical debate, it's like saying, I don't think the debate or the discussion can be fruitful or
Well,
of value.
if the debate is supposed to be an absolute, then at the end of the discourse, I should know.
Exactly. But
Therefore,
if you expect numbers,
no, but I
you
could
will
still
always be
come out of
disappointed.
the experience and being like, you make a good case, but I still feel like I do not know. Like, this
Right.
reduction in absolutism is not enough for me to know.
No, but it's not supposed to be. It's a logic that's supposed to be enough for you. Maybe not to know on an experiential level, but to understand the concept. And if you cannot falsify the concept, not because it's unfalsifiable, but because you cannot produce the necessary logic, that's your part. You have to challenge the person who makes the assertion. And if you cannot, you kind of have to accept the assertion, or you have to say, I will cling to the irrational and not believe this, because I will do that. I will, if you can prove to me logically that God doesn't exist, I'm gonna say, you know what, I'm irrational, I still believe God exists. But if we want to stay rational, then you have to accept the assertion that which you cannot falsify as long as it's sound, which again, if it's not, you should be able to falsify it. Do you see what I'm saying?
I think you're doing a stretch too far. You're using a sophism here.
How?
Like, I
How?
agree, I cannot demonstrate that God does not exist. but I don't agree that you've demonstrated that God exists.
Okay,
You've
prove.
demonstrated that within the all, if something outside of the all has created the all, it must be God. Okay,
No, I didn't say that.
what did you say then?
I said that whatever is must always have been and can only be one, and that one is what I call God because it is intelligent and it's the source of everything, and it is the one infinity. And beyond that, nothing exists. It encompasses both the nothing and that which exists by logic. Because there can be nothing that exists outside of it. Because then
Yeah,
it would exist.
but all that exists could exist without the intervention of something that is infinite.
Why, who said the word intervention? That's your word. That grew on your
Okay,
tongue.
so everything exists.
Yeah.
Period. End. Where's God?
Yes, by definition. Yes.
Where's God?
Where's God?
Like everything
What do you mean
simply
where?
exists.
Okay, yeah.
Things can simply exist without what you define as God.
No, I would argue that the very fact of its existence, the infinity, is godly, is God.
Can you define existing as being God?
Existing?
Like the
What you
fact
say?
that thing exists and we are part of this existence?
Is divine. Yes. Because
Okay,
there's nothing like it.
well,
There cannot be anything like it.
I feel this is a syllogism. Not a
Okay,
syllogism, a
so
sophism. Like things can
okay.
exist without an entity having, even if this entity is infinite and part of it all. Like if this entity, like if your logic stopped being, our universe could still exist.
What would the universe be?
Why does it need a reason to be?
No, what would it be? What would it be?
The same or different?
The what? What is it? You have to dig.
What do you mean?
Go to the absolute. Go to the absolute. What is the universe?
Existence in itself.
And beyond that?
Nothing, of course. I still agree with your premise that things exist
So
or they
where
don't.
does it exist? So
In
where
itself.
does it exist?
His
Where?
existence is enough. It doesn't require
So
more.
it's transcendental in and of itself. It transcends both time and space.
No, it is bound to time and space.
It is bound to where? Where is this time and space that it is bound to?
That I agreed that I do not know. But the fact that I do not know this.
But you assume that it is possible that it is bound to some place, some time.
I agree that I do not know what is outside of those bounds.
No, it's not about knowing, it's about reasoning. You're asserting
there is no
that
reasoning that will convince me of what exists outside of those bounds.
What bounds? I'm saying there.
Space and time.
Right.
And the speed of light.
Okay. Space and time exist. Okay.
Yes.
And we've defined that everything that exists is a subset or subordinate to existence itself. It is within existence.
I would challenge that.
Can something exist? Okay, then answer me this. Can something exist outside of existence?
Possibly. I don't know.
No. That's a cop-out. Speak with logic.
Well,
can something exist outside of existence? Wouldn't it then exist and thereby
yes,
be
it could exist. I simply have no idea of what it is.
But then it is. So it is part of existence again. So
it is part of a different existence, possibly. Outside
what
of this line,
different existence?
Concept might exist on a different meaning, on a different plane.
Okay, but it exists. It is. Think universe. Think all. Don't think.
Okay.
Here,
the all,
there.
everything, ideas and concepts, everything exists. Okay. So what?
Okay, I'll tell you. So what? If it exists, but in a different way, in a different space, then it means that there's something between those spaces.
No,
right?
Because then you make a big bubble around those and you consider them the all.
Okay, so you don't want me to do that. But what do you
No,
prefer?
let's keep on to the like, if for things to exist, they must be part of the all. Okay. But how it does that and for God?
We got a disconnection here.
Oh, how does that infer God? Like everything could exist on its own
Take it step by
without.
step. Take it step by step.
All right,
I cannot go from 0 to a million. All right,
go step by
especially if
step.
I have to rebuild it. Okay, so you're saying, so let's take the first assertion that you made, that there can be
All of the
and I'm saying
existence
theoretically they cannot.
existence is a justifiable mean on itself.
What are you trying to say with that? Let's go to your assertion. You said there
All
could
that
theoretically
exists,
be another existence.
all that
Do you
exists.
still stand by this?
Yes, like let's say we make the pocket the all exist on its own. I don't think it needs a reason to be.
I never said that, first of all. Second
Okay.
of all, you said that there's potential for another existence outside of our existence.
If we make the all and consider this as a pocket, we
Well, do you think
suppose
the
there
all is
is
valid or
nothing.
not?
Well, it is valid as a concept, but I don't think it is
Can you?
valid as a demonstration.
What do you mean as a demonstration? Do you think we can walk through the all? Just
No,
walk through all of it?
but I
So
think
what
we
do you
can
want
say
as a
let's
demonstration?
simply take part of this all.
Mm-hmm.
We can still, and they are part of this all, that will be contradict and cannot exist at the same time.
What do you mean?
You could be either a male or a female, but you cannot be both. You cannot be at both place in one time. You cannot be at both time in one place.
What does that infer?
Uh, it offers that I think the all is a nice concept, just like dividing by zero, but it can lead to any interpretation you want.
But how does that infer that? That's a non sequitur.
Okay, so there is all that is, and then nothing else, because it either is or not.
And isn't that beautiful, simple logic? Can you poke a hole into that?
I cannot poke a hole into that, but that doesn't
Can you
mean
just
I cannot disprove it. But within this all, there are things that are contradicting.
how?
Like
What was your point with the contradicting? So there's life and there's death, and so what?
like
What do you infer from that?
your definition of the all allows you to manipulate logic into wherever you want to take it.
But prove that.
Okay, everything is. Therefore, if God exists, he would be outside of that line. Therefore, he can't exist.
Why? Why?
Because
You have to,
otherwise,
of
he's
course,
not
give
part
me.
of the existence. He's infinite, and you've decided that you're whether this line or you're outside of it, and you're transcendent and non-existent.
Okay, can you prove this logically?
Yeah,
Do it.
God exists, so he's within the part of the all, so he's not infinite.
How do you know that God exists?
Well, because he's part of the all. Even and the all include concept, and God
Yeah,
exists
but
as
only if you
concept.
presuppose. Only if you presuppose that he exists. This is not how I reason, by the way. This is
Oh,
how you try to reason.
I don't say that like God is a material being. I'm saying that if concept exists, we have a concept of the God, and therefore this concept of God exists, and it is part of the all, and therefore not infinite
Yeah,
outside of it.
but that validates that the concept exists, not that God exists.
Okay, and okay,
Do you think that this is how I reason?
no, I'm just saying
Okay, thank
that
you.
when you divide by zero and you make such grandiose absolute, such as the all and not the all, it is like dividing by zero, and using that, you can demonstrate basically anything.
No,
You can demonstrate
can
that
prove
1
you-
equals 2 when you divide by zero.
no, absolutely not. Because I can pull your card on every made up statement that you make and show you that it's demonstrably wrong with logic. Whereas if I make a statement that is false, you can also prove it wrong. But if I make a statement that is sound, can you prove it wrong? Let's not make assumptions about the nature of our logic, but prove the nature of our logic. Right? This is what we do. And when I say God, okay, and I move that word God away, just use the concept. I say that I speak about infinity, right? About an
Yes.
infinity that is the only thing, and at the same time nothing. So it transcends both being and non-being, because there is a non-space in which everything is, because there is nothing around it. Yet it itself is nothing and everything at the same time, which is transcendence. It is both a thing and not the thing. This is the definition, basically, in my words, of transcendence. You can look it up. I don't know what the exact definition on Wikipedia or Google is, but it will revert to basically the same meaning. It is and is not. It is beyond, like a filter, like a film, like not a filter, like a film between things and in things. Okay? This is what transcendence means. This means there is a transcendence everywhere and nowhere at the same time, right? And in this space of this transcendence, which cannot even be called space because it doesn't stretch out for a measurable unit. It could be as small as an atom, or it could be as big as 1,000,000 football fields, and it would be the same because there's nothing to measure it against. You see, I'm using logic here, not assumption. So that very thing, in that thing, everything is, and there is intelligence. So
Okay, but
this
there's
thing
also the
possesses
absence of
intelligence.
intelligence within the everything.
Yes, just as like as there is the absence of life, right? That is the point of transcendence.
So the absence of meaning could be our meaning.
Is it though?
I don't know. Which is my own presupposition about anything of the metaphysic world. We don't know, we can only
But
suppose.
that's no. This is when you don't have a sound proposition. You say, well, what if? What if what? Make a proposition. You don't have a proposition, so you're gonna say, but what if we are just
I have the
bacteria on
proposition
the?
that the existence justifies itself.
When did I ever deny that?
Well, that intelligence is part of the design, and therefore intelligence
I
must be
never
part of
used
the
the
all.
word design. Why do you constantly
Oh, it
use the
might
word
not be
design as if I
design.
mean?
Okay, intelligence is part of the all, therefore the all must be intelligent.
Of course, it possesses it.
But stupidity
It is
is
within it.
part of the all, therefore the all must be stupid.
No. Stupidity is not a thing. Stupidity is just lack of intelligence.
Well, lack of
But there is
intelligence is part of
intelligence.
the all, therefore the all must have lack of intelligence as well.
No, it has intelligence. We know that.
Okay, but it also has non-intelligence, because non-intelligence
No,
also exists.
not everyone is intelligent, right? But we're not trying to prove that only intelligence exists. We're saying intelligence, it does possess intelligence. Of course, there are patches. Of course, let's say, for example, it's light. Okay, there's light. But there's also darkness. Yeah. But I'm not saying there is no darkness. I'm saying it possesses light.
Okay.
Right? Infinite amounts of light.
And also possesses infinite amount of no light.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't disprove the light.
No, indeed.
Saying, yeah, there's vast patches
Okay.
of no intelligence, but that doesn't matter because it doesn't disprove that there is intelligence.
But that doesn't prove that it's the
It does possess
intelligence that is the meaning behind, or the initial act that created life.
I never said that. I'm just saying there is the intelligence. So we know
There
by
also is the lack of
extrapolation.
intelligence.
No, there is no lack of intelligence. It's like saying there is. What's a good example? There's a lack of existence. Where is lack of existence? Where? Can you point to
Everywhere
it?
in the void, I can point at space. There's an infinite amount of it.
There's lack. Where can you? Does it have a location?
Yes.
No, it cannot have a location. How can nothing be somewhere?
Well, the vacuum of
Infinity is
space.
something.
It's 99.8% nothing, and in some part it is literally nothing.
Right. But is it located somewhere in space? It's not in space. Because where nothing is, there is no space. Can there be space in nothing? There is
Yeah.
literally no pocket in no.
There can
well,
be
what
a
you're saying is
kilometer
extremely wrong.
cubic of nothing.
You can only call it a kilometer from outside. When you
Yeah.
go inside, there is no kilometer.
Well, you can
Because there's
design a
nothing to
space
quantify.
in the void between the Earth and the Moon and say this space is void. There is nothing there.
Is it void? You can
99.8%.
traverse it.
Like
Yeah,
we
but
can.
not 100%.
Some part of space are 100% empty
Yeah, can you go there?
because we lack the technological meaning. No, but if we
Okay.
had, I'd go there and then I'd be there and it wouldn't be empty.
It wouldn't be empty. Exactly. There is no nothingness because nothingness means there. It's just not there. It's not space. Okay, look. Nothingness is not empty space.
If you
Nothingness
can make a
is
big
not-
pocket of the all, forcingly this
Yeah.
pocket has an edge.
And what's beyond that edge?
Nothing. There it
So
is.
it's not really an edge, is it? How is it an edge if there's nothing? It's not like there's nothing and then there's space again. It's literally nothing, right?
They're either within the pocket
So
of
it's
the all
infinite.
or you're not.
Okay, let me put it like this. Nothing is infinite. Okay?
It is not
cannot
because
have
it
a
stops when something exists.
Okay.
The nothing stops existing on the line of the pocket of the all.
That's what you're saying. The nothing stops existing, but nothing has never existed. Nothing is the opposite of existence. Otherwise, it would be something.
And
Anything
I cannot
is.
debate that existing ever always existed or never existed. There are some point in times where I start doubting whether
How can there be time without existence? Do you hear yourself? How can
time
there be
is
time
relative to
without
space.
existence?
I understand that.
Yeah, and space exists in existence.
But
Because if
before
you have no pocket,
existence,
there can be no space. Okay?
yes, but what is before existence?
Nothing. There cannot be anything before existence. Because by its definition, when it is, it exists. Come on.
So the nothing was not infinite because at some point things started existing.
No, nothing can never stop existing because it's
So
never existed.
existence has always existed.
Yes. And nothing has always existed.
I
It is
don't
basically the same.
I don't think that existence necessarily always existed or not. I think it is not
So it must have
provable.
come into existence.
Either something started to exist or things always
Started, okay.
existed. Or are faced
Okay.
with this dilemma at this point.
Okay. So either something started to exist
Yes.
within a space. Within a space? Or without a space?
That is the weird question that brings more question than answer.
No, I think if it's a wrong presupposition, then it can be disheveled like that. For example, you say, I think you're making a wrong presupposition, and I can bring logical argument for that. Because you're saying there's a potential. I say this potential does not exist. I say that some matter or matter might have not always existed, right? And I won't disagree with that. But existence must have always been. Because let's say you have nothing, okay? No existence. And then something comes. From where?
Good question. I don't know.
So you think there's a potential that space comes from nowhere?
Yes,
Just like that.
it is.
But
The
it has no
potential.
creator.
Exactly.
But it has no creator.
I don't think it's the strongest bet to have, but I think it is
I think
a
it's the
valuable.
weakest bet.
I think it is still a possibility.
No, it's an impossibility.
I don't think
Because
so.
you can have this. You can have this with a creator, right?
Where
So there's
were you
nothing.
before the sperm and the ovula mixed to make you?
Fuck if I know.
Exactly. But that doesn't mean you don't exist or that you didn't come into existence.
Yeah, but we're talking about something relative now. You're talking about my existence, which is
Yeah,
relative.
but
I'm talking about something absolute.
I
No,
think
this
I
is
can
wrong. Because
project
I
it
told
to
you, we
the
talk about
absolute.
absolutes.
I think that
Then
nothing could
use
have
an
hurted
absolute example.
something.
Bro,
I don't.
don't use something relative to describe something absolute. Use something absolute to describe something absolute.
Okay. I still think that something can come out of nothing.
Okay. How about you create a logical how would I say proposition for that? Because I always do that, so I
There
expect the same from
wasn't
you.
the galaxy, and then there were, or the universe, should I
That
say?
is that is a statement. That is not logic. That is just a statement, a blank statement. It's like saying I ate a cheeseburger and then it was not even and then it was eaten. Just as I didn't eat a cheeseburger and then I ate a cheeseburger. That is not reasoning. That is just a description of events. But that is not a logical proposition. That is just a description of a potential event, but that carries no value. It's like
There was
saying,
a point of time where laws of physics did not apply as we know them. And then there
but
was
there was
a point
something.
in time where the physics of the universe start applying as we know them and has applied since. So I
Okay.
postulate that at that moment, during that explosion or what we don't know happened there, came into existence.
Okay. Easily attackable. There was a
Yes.
point in time. So you say both a point and time. So you already ascribe linearity in
Yes.
space.
Yes.
Okay.
Space
So
is
there's already
linear.
existence.
There is
So there's
this
already existence.
entropic arrow of time.
Yeah. So you're already presupposing existence. So you're basically trying to argue that existence could have come out of nowhere, and your your proposition for that is that existence already was there. The matter just simply didn't follow certain laws.
Exactly. Existence did exist in a different form. It was not satisfied by existing in that form and changed its existence into something else.
But it always existed.
Not necessarily always. I
But
cannot
that's what you
know
said.
beyond that point.
Well, it's not about it's about logic, okay? If it's illogical, what you said is logical, but your assumption that potentially at some point it didn't exist without having an argument for how that would even be possible, that is irrational. Because you can say, well, it was in this state and then it went into that state, and thereby we know, well, it was already before it transformed. Okay, it was existence was, it always was. But
Existence was in a
now you're saying,
different
but
form
maybe,
before that, yes.
yeah, and
And
that's
there is
fair.
no
I'm not
proof
arguing
that
that.
there is an end to the existence in this state.
Yes, fair enough. We cannot prove this. However, okay, going back, you leave a little pocket open where you say, but maybe it wasn't always.
Yes.
Then you have to argue for that because I say no, it's wrong. It either was always or was never.
And I
I'm saying
think
it cannot
that this
have.
dialectic is also flawed.
Okay,
Because
explain.
if it did come into existence at some point, it did not exist before.
Yes.
So
Okay.
saying that it always had existed is as wrong as saying that it did not exist.
No, it's as correct as it never did exist. I
Eh.
think what is wrong is the assumption that it wasn't and then it was. I think that's what's wrong. The sequence. Because its sequence implies relativity, causality. But we're dealing with something infinite, and you're using causality to explain the infinite. Causality can never
I'm not
explain the
trying to
infinite.
explain the infinite. I'm saying the infinite might not be the answer. Maybe things weren't and then they were, and thus it wasn't infinity.
Okay, so how can infinity not be the answer when we literally know it's infinite? Like,
We
something
don't
is infinite.
literally know.
Something has to be infinite. Something has to be infinite, right?
Not necessarily. Actually,
Okay,
pretty much everything comes to an end through the entropic arrow of time.
so you say that. I say existence. I say everything within existence might be relative. but there must be something infinite, necessarily. Because you need a backdrop, okay? What is beyond everything or
Why do
nothing?
you need a backdrop?
It it just has to be. It's just the only logical answer. It
It
is the
seems
only
like something
logical
you
answer.
are inferring rather than something that is logical on its own. Otherwise, I
I will
wouldn't
tell
even
you why it's
try to
logical.
argue against it if it was
Oh,
logical on
no, no,
its
you
own.
can. You're an intelligent person, but don't say that people cannot argue for something that is wrong.
I'm not
It
saying
is
it is
absolutely
wrong.
possible.
I'm just saying that if it was a logic perfectly sound and clear, you'd be like, yeah, but here's A, B, C, and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't think of it, but it's right.
No, no, no. You're expecting mathematical data for something that cannot be quantified, which is wrong. I am already using absolutes, so I'm basically doing ABC baby talk. So you can easily follow the steps. And if there's a flaw in the logic, you can easily point it out, if there is one. If you can spot one. Maybe there is one and you don't see it.
I
Maybe
think
there
the
is one
flaw
and
in
you
your
see it.
logic is your assumption that some of your absolutes are correct.
Well, what absolute that I make can you falsify with logic?
I don't need to falsify them per se, but you
Well,
say
what's
that
the point of a debate
infinity,
then?
like, um,
Wait. Let's get this straight. When I make an assumption or a proposition and I use what I believe to be sound logic,
yeah, but I
you
could
your
propose.
reply is to your reply is to show how it's not sound logic, not to say I don't have to disprove it. You absolutely have to disprove it. That
Um,
is the point.
you say that the universe is infinite, like existence is infinite, there always was.
For example, yes. Okay, yeah, go on.
And you say that is a sound logic that cannot be disproved.
That you haven't disproved.
But I cannot disprove it because you put it in a way that cannot be disproven and say, since you can disprove it, it is right.
Okay, then you can always say, okay, what do you do when somebody makes a statement? For example, you argue with somebody and they say, yeah, women are oppressed. What do? You say, no, they're not. Yes, they are. No, they're not. No, no, that's not what you do because you're
They,
intelligent. You're going to say, how are they oppressed?
yes,
Isn't that what you're going to do?
and they'd
So
be
you can do
correct.
the same
Women
thing.
are in some way oppressed.
Yeah, but that's beside the point. I'm
Exactly.
trying to tell you that if you want to, and if you think that I'm talking out of my ass and just pulling strings out of my nose, you can simply ask for me to make it more concrete, to have a solid vector that you can inspect. You can
Your
inspect my
premise
logic.
is that the universe was infinite and you use a logical circular argument to maintain it. So I'd have to disprove your argumentative value rather than your postulation because as far as I know, you're not wrong. I it might
Okay.
be, it might not be. I just don't think it is such a logical certitude that things always were.
Okay. So I prove that by disproving the fact that the other is not possible. Is that not satisfactory?
You didn't prove it. You argued it.
I prove it by disproving the opposite.
That is still not a way to prove it. Like, I could
Look,
prove
if
that
you
the
only have
gravity is
two
not
options,
11 per. And you disprove that it is impossible that something came out of nothing according to everything that
yeah,
you know.
not according to everything that I know, according to logic. Let's not make this about knowledge because this is not science, this is metaphysics.
Logic is based on knowledge. Without knowledge, there
No,
ain't logic.
logic is based on reasoning. You can use logic on things that you don't know
Yes, you
about by
reason
observing them.
between two things that you know and make a third thing that you know out of those two things.
Okay, so we cannot reason on, I don't know.
We can reason on it, but we cannot prove it.
Are you doing this again? Is this the fifth time or the sixth time that I told you we are not going to prove things because we cannot demonstrate metaphysics physically because they're metaphysics?
Okay, so I either agree that things are infinite or I'm
Or
wrong.
you prove me wrong.
Okay, well, I don't.
Or you prove me wrong.
I'd rather be wrong. I tried to prove you that you don't have such a
How?
certain claim, and my argument fell on deaf ear, so clearly
Okay,
I'm not convincing you.
you're not using logic. You're just saying, well, I don't believe that you have the knowledge to say that. That is your logic, but that's not an argument. That is just saying, well, I doubt your authority on this matter, or I doubt your knowledge, or I doubt there is the knowledge. You're just saying this conversation is inherently futile. This is what you're saying. And I told you at the very beginning, and be honest to me and tell me if it ain't so. Didn't you tell me at the very beginning that yes, you agree, we don't need to demonstrate things
I truly
physically?
agree. And I think this
Right.
demonstration
Why
is
do you
not
expect that
futile.
from me now? Then why do you tell me then as an argument? Well, we don't know. Wasn't that the first thing we established, that we don't know is not a proper argument to use in a
Your logic
logic-based?
chain is not a proof that a thing always were. Right.
Okay, let me put it
No,
like
we
this.
don't know
I
is
cannot.
actually a wrong expression. You are right on this point.
Okay, let me put it like this. I cannot prove you that everything always were by showing you that everything always was, but I can prove you that everything always was by showing you that there's exactly one other opportunity and showing you that this opportunity is wrong. We have two choices.
Okay.
So if we can dismiss one, we know the other one is true. Is that not logical?
Is
If we
supposing
have two
there are
options,
only those two options and no third option is possible, yes, it is
give
true.
me a third option, give me a fourth option, give me a million options, but don't leave things hanging in the air.
Okay,
Don't be vague. Give me
let's
all your
stay
options.
on the things were always existing, and I bring no proof that things could not merge out of existence. And then I said, where were you before you existed?
Right.
And then you came into existence. You were nothing,
Yeah.
and then you were.
I don't know what I was. Maybe I was, maybe I wasn't.
You
Okay.
weren't. You didn't exist
But
until
I'm
you did.
relative. I'm relative. I have a beginning and an end. I'm not the universe.
Well, the universe, as we
it's
know
not the
it,
same
has a
thing.
beginning.
Well, we don't know that. Do
The
we know
Big
that?
Bang.
Do you
Before
know
that, the universe didn't work as it works now.
Okay, here's the thing. Now you use theoretical knowledge, not logic. You use knowledge.
Okay, so
So
if
you
we
have to
make
be
the
able to
abstract
substantiate your
diffusion
knowledge.
that everything is or is not, and since I define that thing are, therefore things aren't.
What?
If we don't
What?
use any theoretical knowledge, you're 100% correct, everything is, always.
Do you agree, or are you just trying to
No, I agree.
say, okay,
If
fine,
we put the definition in the way you've put them, you are correct.
You think I'm dismissing knowledge?
Well, you directly did, but
Is it knowledge? Do you know that the Big Bang happened?
Yes.
Do you know that? Because I'm pretty sure we don't know that. We only extrapolate that. Do you know it?
Okay.
Because I don't claim knowledge. I don't claim knowledge.
know the Big Bang is as real as 2 + 2 = 4, which one I truly know and the other one I infer indeed. Like the mathematical demonstration I know, the other one I infer.
You don't infer, you have read it.
I deduce
You
it
didn't
from
come
the
up with
fact
it yourself.
I not only did I not commit, it's not that I did not come with it myself, is that it is a physical, like material thing.
Possibility.
We
Yeah, it's a
looked to
possibility.
all the edge of the universe, and if there was an explosion 14 billion years ago, we can see that there are only light and matter past those points, and therefore we infer that that is the age of the universe.
Did we see the end of the universe?
No, not yet. I say we only presume of the beginning and not the end.
We only presume. And
Yes.
I'm the bad guy, or I'm the silly guy.
I'm not saying you're bad
this...
or silly.
Look, in a logical conversation, in a knowledge-based conversation, knowledge is king, facts matter, inference also does. Especially when you want to get to new material or conclusions, or analysis. But in a logical conversation, if we want to bring in knowledge, it has to be absolute knowledge. It cannot be something that we assume. And the Big Bang is absolutely an assumption. That is maybe a logical assumption, but it's an assumption. Okay? It is not absolutely, it doesn't stand just on logic. It is based on incomplete data. Do you understand why I dismiss it in this conversation?
Yeah, I do.
Do you see why I put more value and weight behind logic that I reduce to absolutes? Because those can be argued. Because those are absolutes.
I see why
Unless
you put
can
value
say,
on them.
Right. But if I ever use an absolute where you think, this is just silly, this cannot be argued against by definition, and it's actually not even correct. If it's correct, the absolute, then we can work with it. But if we disagree on one of our fundamental definitions, then please be free and modify it or inspect it or break it down. But if you agree with existence, okay, being a state, being the state of being, right? Then I am absolutely free to use this concept as a pawn in my discussion with you, and so are you. But if you're gonna say, well, no, I don't like that you're using this absolute because you can mold it whichever way you find you see fit. Well, you can use it too, but we both have to stay within the boundaries of logic. These are the rules that we play by. And if you can see that I am not violating the rules of logic, and yet I come to a conclusion, what does that say to you?
Many things. Either
Go.
that there are a point of logic that we're non-obsting and we don't realize, or that you're right.
Okay.
It could be one of
Okay.
those.
Yes, I agree with both. Both are absolutely possible. There were many times when I was like, oh yeah, but this is the only logical explanation. And later I was like, oh hey, looks like I was wrong. But what choice do you as a rational human being have but to accept the best possible answer? Not the right answer, because maybe we both don't have it.
If you
But
talk as a
you can either
rational
be
human, I can always refuse it. Some people deny
No,
reality.
that's not rational though. I'm
Well,
saying
I
as a
could deny
rational
it and say there's
participant.
probably something wrong, but I'm not aware of it. I have to find it. It would be a rational way to disagree with it.
Yeah, but that's not exactly right. No, a rational person must accept the most rational thing he finds until he finds something better. And you can say, well, yeah, that makes sense, or doesn't it? Well, if it makes sense, it makes sense. That is rationality. It's either it does make sense or it doesn't make sense. And if it does make sense,
It
but
does
you
make
think
sense, but it
something
is
might be wrong,
near worthless.
why? Why is it worthless? I've never said that it's currency and you can buy something with it.
Oh, word isn't just currency, but like you
How is
go
it
into
worthless?
such absolute
But
that
this is the only thing we have. We live in an absolute universe. This is not my creation, the idea of the absolute. We live in the absolute.
that is a weird postulate to make that we live in the absolute.
Okay, then you should listen to some Stephen Hawking, because apparently he says the same thing.
I think that
Maybe he
the
explains it better.
existence is very relative, but yeah.
Your
Uh,
existence is relative and mine, right? But
yes,
existence itself, if it
yes.
stopped
Yeah,
being,
but when you
okay,
talk about
there
the
was.
existence itself, you talk about a painting we can never see.
Right, but we can infer
Yeah,
something about it. Right, and that's what we're doing. We're not proving it physically because you cannot hold infinity in your hand. It's impossible to prove it physically. Let me give you one of my favorite theories of time travel, which is absolutely valid and absolutely impossible. If you build, I don't remember who came up with that. By God, I would never be able to remember that name. I only read it once. It basically says if you had a spiral, a rod that goes like is infinite length, you could traverse that rod not only through time and through space. You know, a rod, you can travel across a rod. Let's say the rod has 100 million, 1,000 billion kilometers. You can traverse it forever, but you'll always be stuck in space. But if the rod was infinite, you could also travel time, because infinity transcends both space and time. Think about that. That's brilliant. And that extrapolates the point of transcendence, that infinity has to transcend both space and time, because you cannot fit infinity into space without overflowing space. Okay? So we live in a sea that is infinite. I don't know if you really don't see it from this logic, but I hope that you, when next time you light up a joint, you think about this. This is brilliant. And many great minds have come to these conclusions. And bigger minds than I have come to big theories that play with this for fun, because they're so smart. For them, it's sport. To them, it's like discovering something in a video game, right? It's amazing. And it's sad that, I don't know, that to you it seems like arbitrary words. Those are not arbitrary words. The meanings behind them, the concepts have real meaning. It's just that you cannot hold this meaning in your hand. But it's not, oh, if I cannot hold this, no. w- we sup- it must be true that we cannot hold this in our hands, because otherwise it would be absurd. It would not be true anymore. Because to think about the fact that we are inside infinity right now is just fucking crazy. It blows my mind.
We're inside
I
multiple
don't know what else to tell you.
infinities.
It's infinity either way. Where does one infinity stop and the other end? Think about that.
Uh,
There's no point.
where does the
All
pocket
right.
of the all end, and what is beyond it?
Where does it? Yeah, exactly. Uh, there is no end. It's infinite. We just said that. That is a crazy thing. Whatever it is that we're in, and however many segments of it exist, the overall is infinite because nothing is outside of it. So it doesn't have an end, by definition.
Or one
Maybe
day
I'm
we'll
too
come
manic when
across
I'm
the
talking about
proof
this topic,
that
but
here's the alien that pop
no.
up the explosion, and there's the end of our galaxy.
Where did that thing come from? Wait. Oh shit, how much data did I use? Holy fucking. 1 second, bro.
No stress.
Oh no, everything's alright. Everything is alright. I just fucking shat my pants.
Because you realized you were on your data.
No, I know I'm on my data, but when it gives you this data warning, like,
Okay,
oh,
yeah.
you used so much, but it's for the whole month, and I was like, what?
Yeah, it's not like what you use in the last hour.
Yeah, exactly.
In with
Right.
my cell phone furniture, we have 3 hours of free data per day.
Wow,
For 3
that
hours, we
is
can use as
sick.
much data as we want, and then we have 2 gig per month.
But every day you have 3 hours.
Yep,
And how's the speed for these 3 hours?
like
Regular?
3G, 5G, I think.
What the fuck, man?
Yeah, I could download as much porn as I want during 3 hours, and it would consider as 0 byte.
Do you decide when the 3 hours are?
No, and I don't have to take them consecutively. I mean, yes, like I have 180 minutes of free download.
Oh, well, you have to be careful to not let apps download anything
I'm always on my
on their own.
Wi-Fi,
Good, good.
and we're on Bell 5, so
Yeah.
we have unlimited data, and we have, I think it's 20 meg download, 8 meg upload.
Megabits, right?
Yes.
Mm.
Oh,
I used
megabytes,
to not.
because they write it in
What?
French. So it's actually you have to divide it by 8 when it comes to your actual power.
Yeah, I know.
Because
I
when
know.
you write
Like
byte in
that's
French,
megabits.
it's a digit. When you write byte in English, it's 8 digits.
Yes. So you have megabits.
Yes, and
20 megabits.
they sold us like 50 megabits, but that turns out to less than like 10 megabit real megabytes of download per second.
Wait, 10 megabytes would be
80
80
megabits.
megabits.
Yes.
But that's base. That's good. Why would you have a problem with that?
Oh, the point is like the number of digit is what they sell us, but the real internet speed is the number of 8 digits.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because you work in packet of 8 digits, so you consider the number of
I
packet you
know.
send, not the number of letter or numbers you send, which is dumb, but is a way to inflate the number you sell.
I know. They do that everywhere. It's pretty retarded. This many megabits, and when I was younger, before I knew about programming and shit and bits and bytes, I was like, wow, 100 megabits, you could download 1 gigabyte in 10 seconds.
10.24.
Oh shit, that is incredible speed. I could download all the porn.
But it will actually
I
take
remember when I
you.
used to download porn with BearShare and LimeWire and Kazaa. You remember that?
Oh, you mean when you downloaded viruses?
I when you
remember one
downloaded Linkin
time
Park in the end.avi and it was oh my god,
I invited a
it
girl
was
over because I found the LimeWire and we downloaded some South Park episode. And one of the South Park episode was like South Park season 03x108, but it was a porn clip instead. So me and
That
my
was a virus, bro.
like no, but even if it was a virus or not, like I'm there with my female friend thinking I'm gonna play some South Park and just sit and porn starts playing.
How did she react?
She laughed.
Okay,
She was
good.
like, I think
Solid.
this is not South Park.
I think this is the I think this is the new season with the real life action.
Yeah, like she wasn't a stuck up person.
Scartman's mom.
It was still awkward for me, but it was like in the end it's more funny than it was like
By the way, are we on stream?
yes, we are. I
Oh my
started
god. So
recording at
people.
some point because the conversation was interesting. No, there's no one
Oh,
watching. I didn't even share the link. Like I'm my only viewers and that's it.
okay, too bad. It would be interesting to see what people have to say. Although I generally don't care what normies say because normies just don't fucking get it, man. Like, how can there be such beautiful theories? And like, normies be like, yeah, but can you show me that under a microscope? No, 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 like literally the biggest geniuses of our times. Like I'm a small brain compared to them. Okay, I'm not trying to prop myself up, but I'm trying to say here something logical. The biggest geniuses say similar things. Okay, of course they can argue for it better, but they say similar things. But no, this normie's like, can you see it under a microscope? You know what I'm saying? Like. Oh God, man! Like, okay, yeah, we're all retarded. Like, okay, tell that to the retard Stephen Hawking's. You know, I don't get. Normies don't get it, man. I don't know.
If normies could get it, there wouldn't be normies.
Yes, you always find such fucking good ways to say things, man.
Except when it comes to
It's true.
argumenting with the absolutes. I'm not that good in that domain.
You're not very well versed with metaphysics. I give you that, but you are a smart person. I never doubt that. But
Metaphysics
I
have
am a
very
bit.
little bearing on my life.
That's not a good argument, bro.
No, I'm
It's
not
just
saying like
explication of logic.
it's just why I am not asked toward those things. Like I like things that have manifestation in the real world. I'm very like concrete science. Those are my domain of expertise and my passion. I'm not that
It's
versed
okay,
into
man.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm bad or good or anything. I'm just it's a skill I don't
No, I'm saying it's
train.
okay because I generally don't think it's okay, but it's okay. I get it, is what I'm trying to say.
I'll get better as I flex it.
Yes, yes. But you need a little bit of. I know you got a love for the abstract. This is why I was a bit disappointed that you had no love for this form of abstract reasoning because I think this is some of the most existential, crazy ass shit
When
that
you
both
get in
philosophers and
there,
scientists love.
it's more semantics than it is
No.
things.
Uh-uh.
And I'm
I
very
disagree with you. It's
skeptic.
not semantics. No, no,
Yes,
it's not semantics. It's not. How can they build theories on semantics? Why do great minds understand and share these theories if they're just semantics?
because
Obviously, there must be meaning.
as soon as we say like, yeah, but the all is just a concept that you are pushing for this idea, your whole argumentation becomes futile and useless. Like as soon as
No,
you're trying
no,
to
I
have this
disagree.
conversation with normies, it becomes painful.
Whoa, but oh, so you're saying it's futile because people are too dumb to get it, or are you saying
No,
it's futile because it's inherently
it
futile?
becomes futile as soon as everybody don't argue on that, don't agree on that semantic.
It's not a semantic. I'm saying existence. I'm saying existence. What don't you not understand about this blip, this existence? Bam, there is
Yeah,
existence.
but when
So
you say existence, you include everything, even things that don't exist, such as concept.
isn't that the definition of existence? Define existence for me.
Yeah,
Yourself, with your
here is
words.
another thing. Existence is a very hard to define word. Like, existence is the
I don't agree.
ability of an entity to interact with physical or mental reality.
No, no. Does Pluto not exist? Does it have to interact with something to
He
exist?
was a something that was physically able to interact with physical or mental reality at some point. Therefore, he existed.
Okay, what about dark matter?
Dark matter is an entity that can interact with physical and or mental reality.
So
Do
everything that exists is what you're saying. Because
everything
you're
that
casting the same
concretely
umbrella.
exists cannot be
What do you mean
proven
by
as
concretely?
non-exist. Like everything you can touch cannot be.
Can you touch can you touch empty space? Can you touch space?
You can put your hand where that empty space used to be, and it is not empty anymore. And you can redirect your hand, and this empty space
So it's
becomes
not
empty
concrete,
again.
but it exists.
Yes, you're right. Touching it is not a good point, but physical existence is very
But do you
hard to
understand that
disprove.
physical? Do you understand that physical doesn't just mean, oh, I can see or touch it with my eye?
Yeah, you
Look, let
cannot
me tell
touch
you
the
this
sun,
thing,
it still
okay? And you
exists.
should be smart. You should be smart enough to get this. Physical doesn't just mean sensory experience, okay? Physical means within the physical world.
Yeah, we cannot touch gravity, it's
UV
still
light
there.
is within UV light is within the physical world, and there are things that are within the physical world that we might never see or be able to consciously interact with, right?
Yeah, like I cannot touch the sun.
Yeah,
I
you can see
never,
it though. I
and
mean,
no
things that
human
are
will never be able to touch the sun.
let's yeah, but let's be more extreme and more absolute. Um, there is physicality that you do not perceive or
Yes,
not,
we were exactly
right?
talking about that when we say we cannot perceive UV.
Okay, excellent. So we agree that existence does not necessarily mean sensory experience, okay?
No, but it does
So,
mean a
so
physical
we need
or
a different
mental
definition.
interaction with reality.
Well, so you're just saying something exists.
Yes.
So something is, right? I never said that something that is does not interact with anything. You see what I'm saying? So, okay, I agree with you. Fine. I don't understand why you would have to add the interaction because can there be something that cannot interact?
No. Otherwise, it doesn't exist.
So, yeah, so it's pointless to add that, right? So existence is everything that is, because
An
everything that is can
entity,
interact.
ability of an entity to interact with physical or mental reality. I'm just taking Wikipedia's definition. I think that
Right, but
reality and existence is such a complex concept that
yes,
a
but it's
proper
beautiful.
definition will never exist. Just like
Right,
intelligence.
but we can easily logic. Okay, maybe some professor would be able to like blow me out of the water with this, but you know what? I'm not an academic, but I would be willing to take that bet because as far as back as I remember, I was always able to beat my seniors in intellectual and philosophical exercises. I've been once trumped by somebody who caught me off guard, and he was very smart, but I'm pretty sharp. So I'm gonna tell you this: I would take the bet to say that this definition of existence is superfluous because it adds too many conditions that are self-contained, like self-explanatory. It has to be able to interact. Well, is it possible that it exists and does not interact? If it is possible, then the definition is false. And if it's not possible, then it's superfluous to say it. You see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying or not?
I don't think it is superfluous.
Okay.
I like
Why do you
the
not think it's
part that
superfluous?
gets to this. I agree. Like, but I think that the ability of an entity to interact with a physical or mental reality.
Yeah.
When they say interact, it simply means to exist, but they don't want a circular
Right.
definition. The existence is the ability
Okay.
of a body to have a physical or mental propriety.
Yeah, so that's basically okay. No, you know what? It is justified as a definition on the basis that you cannot say uh, existence is everything.
Yeah,
But that is what it
sadly.
says indirectly,
I agree with
right?
you that this part seems superfluous, but the thing is, you're trying to define
Yeah,
something that is so intangible that you have to be a bit superfluous just to be able to
yeah.
have some like in like the definition
Yeah,
of
no, you're right.
corn. I'd agree that it would be way superfluous.
Right. Okay, yeah, no, I agree with you. But we both agree that it basically means everything. Existence is everything.
Yeah,
Because if, yeah, okay, good. So there it is. There
and
is your
it referred
all
to the
that you claim is so
ontological
controversial.
property of being.
Fuck you. Yeah, yeah. Just stringing words together to say
No,
the same thing.
like they give the definition and then they say in philosophy, comma, it referred to the ontological property of being. But at that point, you're in such concept that you just say things are.
Yeah, it's circular. It's circular. It means that it's an entity that exists. That is existence. Ontology.
Philosophical study of being more broadly study the concept that directly relate to being, in particular becoming, existence, reality, as well as the basic category of beings and their relations. Traditionally listed as a part of the major branch of philosophy known as metaphysics, ontology often deals with questions concerning what entity exists or may be said to exist and how such entities may grouped related within a hierarchy and subdivided according to similarities and difference.
Yeah, but now we're going into biology, to be honest. Like subcategories of entities. We're going into natural sciences there, not just biology. You know what I mean? We're just going
Onto
beyond the
means
philosophical.
being or that which is,
I
so the
know,
science of what
I know.
is. But yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
first part is about etymology, of course. Like some
Hmm.
fundamental question: what can be said to exist? What is a thing?
Yeah, and that is circular logic then, It's a thing is something that exists. What is existence? The being of a thing. And what is a thing? It's something that exists.
But if
It
you're
goes
not
on forever.
having this circular this definition, like it's like trying to define definition.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I want to point out something here, okay? The definition we both agree basically says, in many words, because necessarily so, because otherwise you cannot provide a definition, that everything that is existence, right?
Yes, it is.
Right. So, do you see how my definition of quote unquote all is not as controversial as you?
Oh,
Uh,
I'm not saying it is controversial. I'm just saying that by that definition, you can do a lot more things.
yeah, but that's fine. But it doesn't mean that you can pervert logic.
Uh, Indeed, but you can stop considering some part that are quite essential.
I don't think. Let me put it like this: if I was using a relative concept that has many boundaries, that would imply that it has many different rules for how it must interact. You get that as an engineer, right?
Yes, yes,
Different
yes.
relative things have different attributes that are relative, not absolute, so that they must be described in perfect measure. Okay, so how long is this? What material is this? Blah blah blah. But if it's infinite, it gets rid of those qualities because it's all and nothing. But let me before we get into this all and nothing bullshit again, okay? So when if I was using something relative and I was making logical assumptions, you would be like, "Hey, motherfucker, you need knowledge to say that because you would have to know and calculate exactly how the relative properties would react to an interaction with some other relative object or force." And I wouldn't be able to just use logic. I would have to use knowledge. But when we use something absolute, this distills logic and makes it easier for you to follow. It's actually easier to point out logical mistakes when we use an absolute than it is when we use a relative object. Because when I use logic with a relative object, I presuppose a lot of knowledge that both you and I have to have. But when I use something absolute, it's pure logic. And it's easy to find a flaw in pure logic. Do you see what my point is?
Yes.
Am I wrong?
So far, no.
Okay. And this is why I absolutely believe in the method of yes, these absolutes. You say it as if it was a weakness. I think it's harder to make false statements when you're dealing with such an absolute. Or let's say it's easier to detect false statements.
Indeed, but it's
Whereas
also
you,
harder to come to a conclusion that will matter in the real world.
I don't think so. I think it's, first of all, what do you mean matter in the real world? Again, this is not material knowledge, this is metaphysics.
Oh,
If you
I
are
mean that
bummed
those
out,
conversations are as important as talking about Star Wars.
I disagree. I disagree.
All right.
Because we're talking about in impact on your material being, they are Star Wars is maybe even worth more. Okay, but we're not talking about material impact. We're talking about metaphysics. If after a debate or a conversation or discussion on metaphysics, you're bummed out that there is a lack of material impact, then you weren't aware what you were going into in the beginning, because it's
Oh,
obvious. There's
I'm
not going to be
not
material
bummed
impact.
out or like any conclusion we come to metaphysics has no bearing on my life. Like whether you can prove
It
to
can
me
have
out
mass.
of any doubt that matter always exists and existence always exists, as you demonstrated. Like my food's gonna taste the same, my life's gonna be the same, my purpose is gonna be the same.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
As I
is
said,
why
I
I don't.
never.
I'm not attracted to it, but I don't mean it's useless or not entertaining. I love having this conversation.
No, it is useless, but it is entertaining.
Yes.
It is useless in the sense that it has no material impact, but that's the point of philosophy. It's the love of knowledge and understanding.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
not a way to hustle money or to improve. Like a lot of people think it's philosophy to have an ideology, an outlook on the world. You can call that your philosophy, but that is not philosophy in and of itself. Philosophy is the pursuit of understanding and the love of understanding. This is why I love metaphysics. I'm not gonna get an award for being smartest metaphysics nerd in the class. I'm never gonna get that. I'm never gonna get anything except for weird stares or angry normies that say, "No, but we cannot know this. Literally, maybe there was 12 gods. We cannot know this." As absurd as it is, and as easy as it's to be disproven, normies will simply, no, 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 I don't get this logic. Now listen here, we don't know. We don't know. Do you know? Can you prove it to me? Literally, were you there? Like, this is what normies will say. Like, as if mathematics aren't a thing, as if logic isn't a thing, as if saying, you're the only person in that room, it smells like fart, and somebody did fart. We know this by some way, and you're the only person in there who could have farted. You farted, but did you know that? Do you know that? Did you hear me fart? Did you see me fart? Did you measure it when the fart came out of my ass? Like, this is how normies argue. It's brain dead. It's absolutely brain dead. Normies are retarded, bro.
No, I agree
Like,
that
they cannot use simple
metaphysics
knowledge,
give you
logic.
metacognition. Like
I
it
didn't
will.
even know that word.
Oh, it's amazing word, best word, greatest word.
Okay. Okay.
Metacognition is your ability to know something without knowing it.
Oh, damn, that's a fucking hot word, man. I like it.
Metacognition knows the thread of knowledge and therefore know that some things will be known through the same thread of knowledge.
Yes, exactly.
And
But normies don't
metaphysics
fucking get that.
clearly flexes your metacognition.
Yeah. I don't know. You know what, dude? Ever since I was a little kid, I was a freak about this shit.
Yeah, it's your
Um,
passion in life. Some
it's a
people
retarded
like
passion. It's not
makeup,
really my passion.
some people like other things. You like metaphysics. Nothing wrong with that.
It was a phase. I'm not really into that anymore, but I get excited when I talk about it because I'm
Yeah,
still.
for someone who's not into that, you sure sounds like someone who's into that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think about this in my day to day at all. Like, never. But in a discussion, I absolutely love it.
I don't think about Star
Um,
Wars in my day-to-day life. It is one of my greatest passion nonetheless.
right, but when's the last time you did something Star Wars related? Watching it, talking about it?
Oh, I read book about Star Wars every day or week at least.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't thought about metaphysics in probably a year or something.
Yeah, you think you
No,
didn't, but
wrong.
you probably did. It's hard not to
I
think
did.
about metaphysics. Like
No, I really
thinking
don't.
is metaphysic.
Yeah, but I don't think consciously about metaphysics.
Oh
It's
yeah,
been like 7 months,
it is not the
which was when I was.
subject you are the most consistent about, but you sure sound like someone who's passionate about that.
When I'm talking about it, yes. When I am talking. Um, when I was 5 or 6 years old, I remember this because the question was like, I don't even know where the question came from. But I was lying in bed. And of course, I didn't have the words that I have right now. But I was imagining the following, okay?
You
Try to
didn't have
follow
the
along.
knowledge you have now.
The concept, yeah. So try to follow along. I was imagining the following. you have the normal solar system, and there's our Earth, okay? And if you take away our Earth, there's still the solar system, right?
Yep.
So the Earth is gone, but there's the solar system.
As long as you don't take the sun out, it's still a solar system, yes.
Now you take the solar system away, and there's the galaxy in which it was, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure you can already see where it's going. Take the
Mm,
galaxy out, and there's still the vast universe, right?
yeah. Okay, now I'm seeing where you're going at. And if we take the
Yeah.
universe, once we remove everything,
What's
what
then?
is?
Yeah. That
Well,
that
nothing.
I don't know
Obviously,
how the
you've just
fuck.
removed everything.
But what is nothing? That's the point. The universe already was this nothing, right?
No,
Nothing's
the
there.
universe
We'd removed
was the
everything.
something which you took out, and nothing is what is left.
But
It's
then what I
what
was
people
thinking about, I
wants
was
to
like,
pay you. Nothing. There was this Indian comedian saying like Indian were the one who invented the zero, and I'm pretty sure we invented it because that's how much we wanted to pay the Chinese.
ooh, oh shit, the
Like,
Indians.
yes, this is cheap, but can I pay less?
Hmm. Yeah, no, but seriously, think about this, right? Like, of course, you can come to the conclusion, but don't come to the conclusion. Conclusion. Just think about this. Okay, don't come to a conclusion because I didn't come to a conclusion. I was just fascinated by the imagery, right?
I guess
By
this
the
is why I'm a
concept,
psychopath. I don't get fascinated by the imagery. I either come to a conclusion or move along.
right? But you have to let a concept be there in silence and let it allow it to cultivate, you know, in silence.
I uh, I guess, but I'd say I'm very opinionated. When I come to a subject, I have my opinion until I get proven wrong.
Mm,
I
right,
agree that
but you
most
need to leave
people are
the
like that.
words out sometimes.
What do you mean?
It's sometimes it's better when you don't crowd a concept with words. Just let the concept resonate for a little bit, just for no purpose. Just let the concept resonate a little bit. That's my style. Not with everything. Not with everything, no. But with something. So follow along again. If you take away the Earth, you leave the solar system. If you take the solar system, it's gone. But around it, galaxy, vast galaxy, big galaxy, many galaxies. Take the galaxies out. There's the universe as a sort of space. There's still the universe, what we call the universe. The big backdrop, the backdrop to everything. When we take the universe out, it's gone. And nothing remains. We know that. But what does that mean?
It means you took everything away?
No. What does this mean that nothing remains? Think about this nothing. What is the state that we're in right now?
Void? Silence. Peace. Calm.
No, don't throw words. Just throw. I'm not saying that you're saying something wrong. But what is this nothing? What does it mean we just nothing? Wasn't it nothing already when we removed everything else from the universe? Then we remove the universe as a backdrop. So there's nothing. But what's the change? What's the difference? And what is this nothing? Is it a space? How big is it? How small is it? Is there no space? What does that mean there's no space? How big is this no space? You have to contemplate that to develop a taste for it. Then you can find why it's fascinating.
Why is there two
I
busts, you motherfucker? Sorry.
Yeah.
I came in the
I
bus
don't know,
room
man.
and there's two buses
Hmm.
instead of just the normal bus, and fuck my ass backward with a telephone pole.
What are you playing?
Path of Exile.
And there's buses?
Whenever you get at the end of the game, you have the create your own endgame style where there are maps, and the maps are all interlinked within this plane that a labyrinth master tried to keep away from you because he doesn't want you to kill him. So you have to go through the different labyrinth and kill the different arena masters of those different places in order to access the other places of those labyrinth. And when you get to the end of the labyrinth, of an individual map, there is a bus there.
That's crazy, man. A bus.
A bus.
That's so meta, right?
What do you mean?
Isn't it like a fantasy game
Yes?
if there's no technology? Right, and then there's a bus. It's kind of
No,
meta.
there
Like,
is technology, but it's more magic than technology in this high fantasy, dark fantasy world.
so there are like cars.
There aren't cars per se, but I'm in front of a map device, which is a combination of magic and technology, which allows me to access the Atlas, which is this other plane where the enemy, he has a Chevron, has hidden
Let me
himself.
ask you something.
Yes?
Is the technology only there as an interface between you and this special world?
No.
So there's
This
technology throughout the
technology in
normal,
specific, yes.
but there's other technology too.
Yes. The gods
Ah,
exist
okay.
in this world, like physically, concretely. Like when you kill enough people and have enough energy, you become a god.
No, I mean technology.
Technology is very limited. It's more like enlightenment with magic. Any world that develop magic usually have an atrophied technology development because
So what
anything,
sort of technology exists?
um, you know, like the system solar construction where it's rings spinning within rings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's the technology, and they use magic upon this to create portals to this different maps.
So the only time when technology exists is as an interface, as a portal to the other maps.
No, like there's Nico, the Master of Depth, which goes into mine and uses technology to create items for you. There is this,
Oh.
there is Heinhard, doesn't have much.
How does he create these items? Does the lore explain that?
Maybe, I don't know.
Oh, you don't know. Okay. Because
No, not a
maybe he
lot of
uses them
people know.
again to maybe he uses the technology again as an interface to another world from which he creates these items. You know, because it seems to be like a theme. You know, the technology is like an interface or like a gateway between two worlds. You see what I'm saying?
Yes and no. The the other world they send you in is actually simply pocket dimensions that are copied from actual plays that exist in our world. And there's a guy who exiled himself in this dimension in order not to. No, he was exiled in this dimension in order not to become a god because he was cruel and unjust.
Hmm. Okay. So again, so then it is so. So these machines, this technology is really just an interface between two worlds.
As far as I know, yes.
That is interesting though, because that's like purposeful lore crafting. Like I like that they use it specifically for this purpose, but without telling the player. You know what I mean? They don't say,
You
"Oh, this
actually meet it
technology."
at the second act and you don't know what it
Uh-huh.
is. And then when you come back later, someone who came back from that world explained to you what it is, and that the people we thought was destroyed in this parallel world was only trapped and might come out, which is why we have the quest to go and kill him.
So you travel the path
Of
to
exile.
exile, of
Actually,
exile.
you
Yeah.
start by being exiled. It's supposed that we're on Australia and every criminal gets sent to this island.
If you're in Australia, you've already been exiled, nigga.
Exactly, like you get exiled to this island from the main continent, which is called Rayclast. And from there, as an exile, you help people who were exiled until you find this exile who want to come back in order to destroy the world.
That is really crazy. I like it. I like it. It sounds like a really cool game, though.
The story wasn't like that when the game was created. It was added bit by bit over the 7 years.
7 years.
The game got out in 2013,
Damn,
after
bro.
Diablo 2.
Let us think about the questions that we had. By the way, not metaphysical, please. My brain is fried. I hope you had fun with this discussion, though.
Yeah, I like
Um,
taking impossible stance and try to defend them.
yeah, that's fine. You're a fighter, then. I like that.
I'm a contrarian. If
Yeah, that
if
is cool.
if everyone votes
But you
one
came
side,
to the
I'll
wrong
try
neighborhood,
votes.
motherfucker.
Well, then I'll be wrong, and it proves only that your argument is stronger.
Yeah, there's nothing bad about being right or wrong. I mean, if I can be proven wrong, my ego will be for a second like, ah, damn. But then I will have learned something, you know?
I'd rather be 100% demonstrated wrong than not being sure that I am.
Depends, right? Depends.
All of the
Because,
time.
okay, let's put it like this. Let's put it like this. Oh, then you're humble. Then you're better than me in this regard. Because personally, I enjoy winning a lot. Because for me, debate is usually an intellectual battle. But if I can walk away without being humiliated and being proven wrong, like if I can be proven wrong without being humiliated, that's good. That's very good.
I don't
But
even
usually,
know
you know,
what
I go
being
very hard in debate.
humiliated means anymore.
I mean, right, what we had was not a match of humiliation or anything. I mean, just in general, you know, when you argue with someone about politics and this person very much disagrees with you, usually it gets heated and you don't want them to pull a hard
Fact
gotcha
on
on
you.
you.
Yeah, I guess, but like, even that doesn't humiliate me because I feel that now I am 100% more strong in a conviction, whether it is the one I held before or the one I held now. So I don't
Yeah, it's
feel
great.
it's
That's good.
humiliating. Like, I feel
No.
humiliating if I went into that debate and ended up with everyone laughing at me and me not having learned anything.
Yeah, I think you look, for me it's more important that you develop. Okay, for me it doesn't matter, it's your life. But if I had a goal, it wouldn't be to either prove you wrong, it wouldn't be to prove you right, it wouldn't be to teach you. It would be to try and inspire a fascination for the metaphysical and show you why it is so massive, so real, even though because we live in it, we swim in it, and it can be described, you know, even though we don't have the ability to hold it in our hands, but that's by definition. And I don't know, probably I didn't inspire a huge flame of interest for it, but if I could have planted a seed, that would already make me pretty happy. Because I know this one other guy, a very smart guy. Um, and I told him about all that, and he's like, "No, but we don't know that, but we don't know that, but we don't know that. We have, look, bro, we have limited data sample." And my friends were starting to get low-key a little bit mad at me, like, "Hey, you don't get it, man. Like, you're wrong, and you just don't want to admit it." And I was like, "It makes no sense to argue against three people at the same time, who
Especially
all share the same
people,
opinion."
not just that, but they start from the presupposition that you are wrong.
Right, exactly. That what I'm trying to say is, um, what's the term? Inherently, you know, inherently wrong or
Fallacious.
inherently, yeah, basically. Oh no, we cannot know this, so everything you say, no matter how logical, is null and void because technically, blah 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 blah, theoretically, blah blah blah. But they never propose any logic. So they only try to bring it down to the topic of natural science. And at some point, I was like, okay, I can continue this forever. I'm just gonna shut up and say, hey, I guess you're right. You have a good point, right? So because otherwise I would have gotten into a fight, like not a real serious fight, but
They'd be
it
like,
would have
"Oh,
gotten a
you're
bit more
lame.
uncomfortable.
Like, you're not cool. Like, holding up to your point of view, you're supposed to bend the knee."
Yeah,
That kind of fight,
and
not like fist fight.
again, nah, yeah, not fist fight. But again, 2 days later, I see this one of these people, the main antagonist of my proposals. See him again, and he's like, he had already told me, not relevant to what not relevant to the discussion. He just before the discussion even happened, he told me that he wanna watch some documentary about Stephen Hawking, and I love metaphysics. I think I have a real understanding of it. Like, I'm not claiming to be some scientist, but I get it. I get it naturally. I've always gotten it since I was a little boy. I don't get the other physics and mathematics. I'm a fucking loser at that shit. But I get the logic inherent to metaphysics. I just get it. But the problem is because I don't have a background in science, it's sometimes difficult to convey things to normies, so I just avoid it. And then this guy comes up to me 2 days later. We meet at a cafe, at a different cafe this time. And he's like, dude, I was just saying with Stephen Hawking. Oh my God, you were look what he didn't say you were right. He didn't want to say you were right, but he was like, yeah, he said the same thing, like about this infinity and being transcendent. And I was like, I didn't even say I told you so, because like I was like, fuck you fucking asshole. Why did we have all that? Why did you need Stephen Hawking to tell you that? Couldn't you just have opened your mind for a second and take it from a pleb like me? I can also make sense. I don't need a title. I don't need to be called like the smartest person in the world to make a solid point, you know? But when he heard it from like the universe, then suddenly, yeah, wow, my mind is blown, you know? Like, why? Why does it have to come
Oh,
from a point of
I
authority?
can describe why. His ego.
Man, okay, I guess you fucking nailed it right
But
now.
I mean, I can go into
Unfortunately, yeah.
more detail. You are his contemporary, meaning he is worse than average if his average makes him wrong. But when a summity in the status make him wrong, it's not his fault. He couldn't known as much as him, and
Wait, can you
therefore,
explain that again for dumb people? Because I didn't get it.
to his ego, it was less
Yeah.
damaging to accept it from Stephen Hawking than accept it from you.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because in the end, the
Okay,
idea
yeah.
were the same, whether it came from you or him. The only difference is ego.
Yeah, I think
I could be
that's
wrong.
just it, right?
When it comes to interpreting
Nah.
human, you can always be wrong. But it does sound
Okay.
logic.
I agree with both your statements. It could be wrong, but it does sound logical.
Yeah.
May I
Like
don't
when it
know.
comes to metaphysics and you're agreeing like the all and everything, we have to agree on an absolute definition. But when it comes to humans' motivation, nothing is more subjective.
Yes, yes. Because everything's so relative. Yeah. It's crazy because if you think about it, even when it seems like you are so sure, doesn't that fascinate you sometimes? You're so sure about a person's motivation. Maybe you're angry at them because they did something because you're sure they did it out of a malicious intent, and then you find out they had no malicious intent whatsoever. There, I don't have a concrete example,
I've
but
always
maybe
been
you've had
good
this
at
experience.
sizing people's intention. Like,
Uh-huh.
I can know when my friends are lying to me before they know they're lying to themselves.
Yo, are you exaggerating now, or is it like
No,
completely true?
no. Like, my friend was like, I felt he was pissed at me, and I'm like, "Are you pissed at me? No. Are you sure? Yeah. Are you sure you're not pissed at me because of this, of this? No, I'm just in a bad mood." And like he comes back later and like, "Oh yeah, you were right. I was pissed at you because of that, and I couldn't bring myself to realize that I was just jealous of you."
Motherfucker.
Like that person
Like
was in
you can do
denial
that
of themselves,
consistently.
and like to me it was crystal clear. You
How do you
cannot see the
how do you
wind, but you
perceive that?
cannot see that it is windy outside.
Uh-huh. And how would you describe
Like
this
that
when it
part,
happens?
magics. My
It just
guess,
clicks.
yeah, but I think it's synergology. The movement of the face are very expressive in the average human. I
And you pick
think,
up on that.
I think that's what it is. Also, like people who had traumatism when they were young, I've been molested when I was young, becomes very in tune with how people are feeling as a coping mechanism. If someone feel bad, I'm
Hmm.
gonna get hurt. Therefore, I must know when someone is feeling bad and be away from them. So I think this is where I got it, but I cannot say like, oh, this happened, therefore this and that. But I look at someone and I'm like, this person is pissed because he lost someone. And most of the time, I will
Wow.
be correct.
So you had to develop like an immense instinct.
Yes, it is
That's
very common
interesting.
in kids who were abused.
That's interesting because I did have the theory. I mean, it's not a wild theory. It's probably something just very
The theory,
logical. But
or how do you call it when you in the scientific theory? It starts with an observation, and then you make a supposition. No, wait. There's an exact word for what.
presupposition, thesis,
Yes, you no. Thesis is the last
hypothesis.
part. Yes, hypothesis. Great, hypothesis.
Hypothesis is like
It
is
unverified thesis. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that, and then you do the work
like an
to verify
assumption
it.
basically.
A bit more than assumption. An assumption is
Okay.
something you make beyond yourself. Like, I have assumed that. But an hypothesis is something you made in reaction to an observation and prior knowledge.
Ah, so it's like
Conscious
it's like an
decision.
unfounded thesis.
Yes, exactly. It's basically a thesis that didn't have yet the demonstrability done. Like, someone was like, I'm pretty sure gravity exists. I made the hypothesis that big thing attracts smaller thing. And
Yeah,
then
okay.
from it's part of the scientific theory. You observe, you
Oh, I
make a
like this.
hypothesis,
Yeah.
you test it out, and then it becomes either a theory or you go back to the observation point. Like, oh, my hypothesis was wrong because it's been confirmed in this case. I go back to
Bro,
observing.
you don't have to explain this for one single reason. I get so many bugs when I try to write my script that I constantly have to play detective. So my hypothesis is it doesn't work because this value does not do that. Okay, let's try this out. Damn, that's not it.
And then you start
Fuck,
over
and
until it
another hour.
works.
And that hurts, yeah, yeah. And then you find out, oh, my hypothesis was wrong. The fact is, I actually just had a typo in my code.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, it's not that usually because in Python you can spot typos very easily because the interpreter throws a very nice error message as opposed to I think JavaScript does it gives you an error message with a line. I think it does, right?
What,
In the
sorry?
console. Never mind.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
so
lines like
so I have
Word
this hypothesis
that tells you made a
like
mistake? Like the red
yeah, and it
line?
shows you which
Okay.
line in your code.
Oh yeah, then yes, Python would help me tremendously.
Wait, JavaScript doesn't do that? I thought it does.
It probably just depends on. Oh, my someone is calling me. Be right back. Hello?
Hello?
Allô? Allô?
Hello?
Hello?
Oui, tu peux. Oui, m'entends-tu?
Oui.
Ok, tu peux-tu venir vider l'épicerie? Merci beaucoup, je suis en face, il n'y a plus de place devant. Merci.